You guys would try to pants check me before the stream even begins. Imagine that. Banana Gang, what's up, everybody? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. Hopefully it was as good as mine. I mean, I don't even know if I would say that my weekend was all that wonderful. What you guys were just looking at up on your screen was actually a bunch of Iranian ballistic missiles that were captured in flight. Like literally like the launches going up into the atmosphere off a commercial flight. That was flying over Saudi Arabia. McCall Glitch, welcome to becoming a true supporter, my friend. Bananas say, hey, yeah, what's up, Nanner Gang? If you guys are part of the original Nanner crew, go ahead and drop some bananas down there in the chat for everybody to know who you are and how long you've been here. Hey, listen, Tel Aviv ended up getting slammed. So did Haifa and a lot of other locations over the weekend. Obviously, the No Kings protest kicked off. There's about 5 million people or so around the nation that showed up to those different protests. That is allegedly one of the largest showings in U.S. history. That is freaking massive, right? And amidst all of that, as all of that was going on, we also had this war that was taking place overseas. U.S. hasn't had any direct involvement in it from what we can see so far, but that might be changing because it looks like the U.S. embassy, actually the old embassy, which would technically be the now consulate over inside of Tel Aviv, actually got indirectly hit by an Iranian ballistic missile. And as some of you have already noted over inside the chat, it looks like there's a bunch of refueling tankers that ended up taking off from the United States about 12 or so hours ago that are on their way over into Europe, actually made it into the European theater and are kind of like being tracked going over to cross. Additionally, we have the USS Nimitz that looks like it's actually on its way now, heading over to the CENTCOM AOR. That, ladies and gentlemen, is very huge news. Why? Because yesterday Donald Trump actually came out and he said that if Iran goes to attack us in any way, shape, or form, that there's going to be serious consequences. And I'm not kidding you. Like, that was a direct quote that he ended up saying out. He said, and I quote, "If we are attacked in any way, shape, or form by Iran, the full strength and might of the U.S. armed forces will come down on you at levels never before seen." Now, that's insane, seeing how there's also reports of a drone attack that ended up taking place over outside of the U.S. consulate in Erbil. That is the same location that ended up getting struck by Iran after General Soleimani got schwacked by the last Trump administration. So, is this significant? Yeah, it's extremely significant. And I've got a video of what appears to be a drone being shot out of the sky over near, it's reportedly coming out of Erbil. So it looks like there might actually be some like substantiating information that could like go in and verify that. Mighty Lewis coming in, gifting out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. Greatly appreciate you, brother. Obviously, the protests and stuff this weekend were going to be fun. I'll be going over that here like a little bit at the end. I'll talk to you guys about some of the stuff that we ended up seeing. But yeah, outgoing launches from Iran over this weekend could be seen from several different locations. I ended up showing you some that were coming out of Saudi Arabia, that image from the airliner. This is actually coming out of Iraq. Just looking over across the border, you can actually see all of the ballistic missiles that ended up going. Now, these ballistic missiles had some pretty significant impacts over inside Tel Aviv and Haifa. We actually had some high-rise buildings get struck. New level of civilian casualties actually rises to about 24 dead, okay, by everybody's tally and estimates. So 24 Israelis so far have been killed by these ballistic missiles, and you've got right around estimated 500 that have been injured and put into the hospitals. Now, before all of this took off and started happening, the hospital staff was put on alert over inside Israel, and it looks like Iran is going to be launching more waves of ballistic missiles. Now, what I've got coming up for you is going to be, oh, you know what? Before I even put this up there, I got to let you guys know this too. One of the generals over inside of Iran said that they are actually reserving a new weapon that they chose not to disclose, or they're not showcasing, that if they need to, they're going to light that sucker off, and it's going to cause massive destruction over inside Israel. Now, this video that I'm about to put up is of the THAAD missile system going over and actually blasting down some Iranian ballistic missiles. Now I'm going to pause the video right here, and I'm going to kind of put this right up in the middle of the screen as you guys see this little sucker down over here. what's being said is that some of these ballistic missiles were actually being shot down over the Al-Aqsa Mosque. No idea what the intended target was, obviously, because they ended up shooting it. The question really is going to be like if that mosque ends up getting damaged by an Iranian ballistic missile, because some of these things are not as accurate as they like choose to say they are. Some people were saying it is the arrow. Some people are saying it's that. All of that, got it. But yeah, Al-Aqsa Mosque over right outside of Jerusalem. Now, to take you guys over to the embassy. And I'll tell you what, man, I'm going to show you guys the embassy over in Jerusalem. There's a video that ended up coming out of somebody walking through it. It wasn't really a lot of damage. It looked like a lot of the shock waves. Mike Huckabee actually came out with a statement saying that no U.S. personnel or nobody essentially got injured when this ended up going off, but there was damage because of the shock wave that ended up going into that building. I'm going to show you guys the geolocation of this imagery just here in a sec. Vincent Kuznar says, dude just got done watching your discussion with the Denver Communist priceless. The one chick wearing the Ukrainian flag on her chest, while good, but seemingly very ironic, supporting communism. A very good content, my man. You know what's funny about that communist, too, that you're talking about? The one that had the Ukrainian flag that came over and talking? One, pretty sure that was a guy. Like, just to be, before we get into this next thing. One, pretty sure that was a guy. Two, when I ended up getting the tear gas video and all the other stuff that was coming out of those protests, one of the people that actually got arrested and detained was that freaking communist with the flag, the Ukrainian flag on him. Kind of ironic. Yeah, the guy that wants to come over and argue with me about everything doesn't know butt from a hole in the ground. Yeah, that ended up happening. I got some other stuff that I haven't released yet either. I'll probably end up releasing it here in a little bit. Thumper33 coming in with 5. He says, Iran keeps bluffing and hinting they have a nuke. Do you think they do? It is possible that they do. Is it probable? I don't know, but is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. They at least have the potential to have enriched that much uranium, and what they've disclosed, like what the IAEA is reporting on, is what Iran has disclosed to them, right? So they're being invited in, they're being shown around. And if Iran does in fact have that material and those weapon systems, highly unlikely that they ended up disclosing it to the IAEA, right? As those people are walking around. We already know they had 3 separate locations they ended up not disclosing to them, which ended up putting in non-compliance. So here's the outside of the embassy as you look at it from like Google Maps, and you can see like these little rails and stuff like that that are on there. Did I go over to Google Maps? I did. What did I do, man? Shame on you, Matt. Here we go. This is what I'm looking for. So here you can actually see like the windows, and then you can see those little pylons and stuff like that that's outside where they ended up getting it. And then you can see where this embassy is actually located. You can see the address of it and everything else to like kind of confirm the location of the attack on the embassy, just so you guys are comfortable with me letting you know that that sucker did in fact getting hit was geolocated to go down and being the embassy. Not a big deal. And because of that, it looks like the USS Nimitz, like I said, had reappeared and it is now traveling over into the CENTCOM AOR. Allegedly, right? It hasn't been confirmed that that is the location to where it's going, but it's definitely on the move and heading in that direction. It's currently bypassing Malaysia, heading over there right now. I've got to look up the actual distance and how much time it's going to take it to like travel over there. But just to remind you guys, USS Carl Vinson is also over there in the region already, and it hasn't been attacked. And I did see there was an earthquake over inside of Iran. I saw all of that, right? But Iran has just been issued evacuation orders. This information came out like, I don't know, 20-30 minutes ago. We ended up seeing like evacuation orders that Israel ended up dropping the same way that they ended up informing people inside Gaza. It looks like the same little like layout. Ended up informing them that they need to get the hell out of Dodge. That's one little neighborhood that's going to be coming up, and we got like new strike videos and stuff that are coming out of that. This video within itself, all right, is a missile falling extremely close to somebody that was attempting to record the incoming ballistic missiles over inside Tel Aviv.
Wow.
Wait for it. Incog Faraday, I want to thank you for coming in and gifting out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. I see other people saying into the sandbox again, here we go, as if we're going to actually go on and have a ground invasion over there. No, that's not necessarily the case, but what might actually be the case, and I'll pull the videos up here in just a little second when we start talking about Iran and the impacts that happened over there. It absolutely looks like the Kurds are like standing up and marching like they might actually be crossing the border to go into Iran. There's a video that shows them like gearing up, kitting up. It's being rumored that they're being led by either Israeli Mossad, USSF, or whoever, that they're going to end up crossing the border and going into Iran and having that ground incursion. And my only question about that when we bring it up is, why the hell do we, like, the Kurds continue to back us when all we ever do is abandon them? It blows my mind every time. Matthew Newman coming in $4.99. Could Russia have given Iran a nuke for enriched uranium like a backdoor deal? I doubt it. I highly doubt that to be the case. There was rumors of this happening like a couple months ago. I want to say it was about like 6 weeks ago, somewhere in that vicinity, of the Iranian foreign minister actually traveling to Moscow and asking Iran to give up nukes, or to give them nukes, or to make them nuclear capable, basically give them the last final couple pieces of components. Reportedly, Russia ended up turning it down. I heard I think 2 days ago from somebody in the know that that's not necessarily true, that isn't the case, that Meeting might have never actually taken place. Nevertheless, that rumor is still flying around, and it's unconfirmed whether or not it actually happened. So you can trust my source that says that the Iranian foreign minister never actually did that, or you can trust everything that you see out there. To be perfectly honest, it's a 50-50 shot, in my opinion, for kind of like how I look at everything. I mean, it's just, it's unreal. Here's another video of some ballistic missiles coming and raining down. You know, it's funny. Let me turn this off. Brian, I see you over there in the comment section, said it's not our war, yet. That's not necessarily true. U.S. troops have been targeted by the Iranian regime numerous times since October 7th. We have lost 3 U.S. service members over inside of Jordan, likely in a drone attack that was by an Iranian attacked regime. All right. And then we also had 2 U.S. Navy SEALs that lost their lives interdicting weapons that were on their way going over into Yemen to be, supplying the freaking Houthis. We have lost U.S. service members in this already, and a lot of people don't even realize that. And Iran, number one, as they're shouting death to Israel, they're also shouting death to America. And we have a lot of U.S. interests in assets over in that region, U.S. military personnel, obviously, but lots of U.S. consulates, lots of U.S. embassies, all of those things well within striking range of Iran. And they have threatened to blow the United States off the frickin' map as well. So it wouldn't surprise me if Iran did, in fact, open up with an attack on one of those sites over there. The only problem is all of those are in like different hosting countries. And if Iran chooses to like open up with ballistic missile attacks in those countries, as you guys can see, like a lot of the Iranian ballistic missiles aren't that accurate. I mean, they're getting in the general vicinity and then slamming down, right? So that leads to the question, if Iran did attempt to do that and they end up missing their target, which likely they would, how badly would that draw other countries and not just the U.S.? So Iran would make a lot of enemies if they did that. Now, some of the actual targets that they go after where they wouldn't have to worry about would be our strike carrier group that's operating over in the region right now, and the new one that's on its way over there right now. They'd be able to go after those without having to worry about the host nation countries, as long as those boats were in international waters, right? So I want to take you guys over to this video and show you this video from Tel Aviv real quick. Now, for those of you that haven't seen this video and don't know the story behind this video and what actually took place on this one, this building that actually got struck here, there was a family that was in a safe room inside of this building. It unfortunately ended up taking a direct hit from this ballistic missile, and it killed every single person that was hiding out in that safe room. Gentleman that actually reposted this video had came out and said that his family was inside of that building. They were in the safe house. Luckily, they didn't get injured. But you're starting to see damage like this taking place across Israel, and you're going to see some other stuff that's coming out. Now, why do I bring that up? Because even though you have Israelis that are over in these safe houses, they're not safe, or in these safe rooms or in these bunkers, they're still not safe. They're still like gonna get killed if they end up taking a freaking direct hit. They're just not made to take that large of a blast. We're gonna go over to Trey Yinks real quick because he was over in Tel Aviv not that long ago with surveying the actual site and talking about what he's seen.
This is an unprecedented moment for Israel. Again, we have been reporting here on the ground for nearly 7 years. We have seen rocket attacks from Hamas and Islamic Jihad in Gaza, precision-guided missiles coming from Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, ballistic missiles from the Houthis in Yemen, Iran-backed Iraqi and Syrian Shia militias launching drones and missiles at this country. What we are seeing today, Israel has never faced. And Israeli officials tell us they are fighting for their survival.
Trey,
guys, back to you. This is an unprecedented moment for Israel. Again, we have been reporting here on the ground for nearly 7.
It's funny, I see somebody that says just because you're my friend doesn't mean I'm going to jump in a fight that you started. The fact is that Israel didn't start this fight. Iran's been taking its proxy forces and projecting them across the region for a really long time. So that's a gross misunderstanding of the situation and what's been going on. Israel's been under attack by Iranian proxy forces for a very, very long time. And I mean a very long time. Whether or not it's militants over inside of the West Bank or over inside of Gaza or over inside of Lebanon and sometimes coming out of Syria, they've always had this issue. And you've also got people sympathizing over inside of Egypt and several other locations. And so this is the way, and the Houthis, by the way, firing ballistic missiles at Israel, that is Iranian-backed forces that are attacking Israel. So it's not even Israel picking this fight. It's just a radical religious ideology. There's no other way to state it. All right. This radical religious ideology that doesn't think Israel should exist, that they should wipe off the face of the earth. And they're supplying munitions to the people that are in direct relation. Now, the reason Iran does this is so that they can stand back in the background and say, look, we didn't actually do this. They have a degree of separation in between them and everybody else. They can say, nope, that was Hezbollah. Nope, that was the Houthis. Nope, that was the PIJ. Nope, that was Hamas. Nope, pick one, man. They will throw that out there so that they can maintain that degree of separation. But the reality is when you look on the ground, and Iran counts on this because, American military involvement or even popular support over inside of Israel, even though Israelis are way more read up on the subject than most Americans are, is to go with that narrative and to go with that explanation of all these things. They like to say that that's what ends up happening. And it's just simply not true. That the Houthis and everybody else was doing it. Here is the Haifa Tower direct impacts on that.
וואי, גם פיצוצים על הבוקר. פשי, הנה יש עוד. תראה, עוד. הנה, מולי. תראה. מאיפה בתי זיקוק? יש פה נפילות. תראה. הנה, נפילות. וואו, בבתי זיקוק. וואו. בבתי זיקוק, אחי. כן.
Yeah, so we will go ahead and crush this one as well. Did you see what Pakistan said? So that is an AI generated video. For those of you guys that don't know what he was referring to, there is a video that's floating around, all right, where Pakistan said that if Israel ends up nuking Iran, that they're going to turn around and nuke Israel. For those of you guys that don't know, Pakistan is a nuclear armed state. That video is AI generated, it's fake, and the audio that's dubbed over it is also fake as well. David Hoffpower says, Matt, have you heard IDF sent trucks into Iran filled with drones, exactly like Ukraine attacked an airfield? Also, they had a drone building house in Iran. So here's what's actually confirmed by that. Yes, I did hear people try to claim that. And what that is, it's Iranians, all right, that are going around and they're finding different pickup trucks and things like that. And they're saying that that is Israeli Mossad, and they're detaining these trucks. I haven't seen the actual evidence that trucks were actually being used in it. The evidence that I have seen, all right, is basically drones that are being launched from the ground and or air. They're not massive drones. They're like a little, they're much on the smaller side, right? Kind of like, Ukraine ended up using. But Iran is going around right now, and they're like going after these trucks. I might have one of those videos in the stack, but that hasn't been confirmed. Iran has said that they had detained that, but Iran has also said that they shot down an F-35. And this is why it is so dang difficult to do this job sometimes. Let me see here. Let me see if I can find him. Nah, it's not Scott. Hold on. And when you see this photo, you're going to laugh. It's so ridiculous. It's not even funny. Here you go. Here it is. Here is the Iranian captured F-35. Does anybody notice an issue with this whatsoever? Anybody at all? This is the photo that's going around that knuckleheads actually believe that Iran shot down and captured an F-35. And again, this is Iran saying that they've gone around and they've detained trucks with drones, kind of like Israel would have piggybacked off of Ukraine, or their concept and the way they went about it, piggybacking off Ukraine. The problem with this is when you actually take the average height of an adult male, obviously this photo looks a bit wrong. That looks like a gigantic alien aircraft. It's an AI generated photo. If you were to take and just to scale to put this in there, that would make that aircraft about 100 meters long. That would mean that this F-35, which I'm pretty sure is around 20 meters, all right, this shows it as being about 100. So it's about 5 times larger than it actually should be. And there's actually people going around trying to share this as direct evidence that Iran has shot down an Israeli F-35. It's just simply not true. Free J says, Shalom from Israel. The Islamic regime has to be removed. Free J, you and I both agree on that subject, and I think most Americans do as well. And when I say that, I don't take that lightheartedly. I actually ran a poll this morning up over to figure it out. And right now we've got about 700 votes on this poll. And I'll just put it up on the screen for you guys to see where it's at. And when I say that Americans also believe that as well, I thoroughly mean that. So I just asked, as an American, do you support the USA striking Iran following targeted attacks against U.S. Embassy in Tel Aviv, and also the consulate over inside of Erbil? Shockingly, we've got 60% of the people that have came in here and voted and said no. 24% of the people, I'm sorry, 60% of the people said yes. 24 ended up saying no. And then other people, I don't know, ended up being about 15%. So overwhelming majority of the people that actually voted a yes or a no vote ended up coming out and saying, yeah, we do. Like, we want to see it bombed. And I think that goes to the American people's understanding, at least, even if they don't understand the entirety of the situation, they still know that Iran is a radical freaking country. Nobody in the United States, nobody, at least actual patriotic Americans, I'm not talking about the communists and the hippies and the granola eaters and all them, I'm talking about actual Americans. Nobody in the United States of America wants to see freaking Iran with a nuclear weapon. When Russia doesn't even want to see Iran with a nuclear weapon, it really ought to open your eyeballs, right? And question what side of this fight you're on, if you're supporting Iran and, Hamas and all them. Now, like I said, there was a flyer that ended up getting dropped over Iran. Let me see if I've got this sucker here. I may have grabbed it. There it is. Let me bring this one all the way up to the front. Ended up putting it way in the back. So a new flyer was dropped and showing, or evacuation orders were given over top of Tehran. This is the area that they ended up warning, telling Iranians to get the hell out of Tehran. Okay, like, get out of this region, get out of there, we're coming after you. Now, there is rumors right now, although it is unconfirmed, I'm going to talk about it here in a minute, that Khamenei, or the Ayatollah of Iran, was actually killed in an airstrike. Now, those rumors are unconfirmed. There is nothing that actually shows, zero evidence right now that Khamenei actually got killed. But there is massive rumors going around that Israel and the Israeli Air Force was targeting Khamenei in airstrikes yesterday. They were pounding and slamming a particular region. And there's one photo that I found that actually substantiates, or at least starts leaning towards, all right, that Israel did in fact go and try to target Khamenei. And I'll put that up on the screen in a minute. Right now, what I actually want to bring up is show you some of these newer airstrikes that have been pouring in, coming from outside of Tehran. And it looks like they're actually not, targeting Tehran itself, but this mountainside allegedly that's outside of it. Dude, the amount of times I've been accused of being a CIA propagandist or an Israeli shill or a paid something or other is just not true. Like, I've been accused of it so many times. Travis Cook coming in, becoming a true supporter. Now, I do my own independent research. I try to verify as much things as humanly possible, which is why I'm able to shoot down other rumors. And I can stand there. I can tell you that Khamenei being killed isn't confirmed, but I've been able to find one photograph that Iran released that actually kind of like leans towards that did in fact happen. Gonna go take a look at a couple more of these strikes that ended up coming in. Again, these are out of Tehran, allegedly. Oh my goodness. I see somebody saying that Israel lost 3 F-35s. Well, why hasn't Iran produced any evidence of that? Why doesn't that exist? Because you know for a fact, if any F-35s were shot down, that there would be so many pictures and videos of people going out and celebrating that. Now, as we talk about that, I want to let you know that there's also reports coming out of Iran that there are people rising up against the government. I have seen several new videos, several new photographs of things that definitely appear to be protests in some of these regions where people are standing up against the Iranian government. Kind of interesting, right? That's going on. At the same time, you also have more reports coming in about women refusing to wear their freaking like head wrap over there inside of Iran as well, and are now taking those off in protest. There is several videos also of Iranians that are just literally chilling out, watching and cheering for these airstrikes, along with several other things that are coming out of there. Open up this video right here and show you guys some more airstrikes that are coming in, apparently on that same mountainside. So the question is, what is Israel going after there? What are they trying to get? Now, the Natanz nuclear facility over inside of Iran did get vastly injured by these Israeli airstrikes. IAEA ended up coming out saying that, yes, it effectively got freaking schwacked by the Israelis. But also looks like I think it was like 30 or 40% of their centrifuges or something like that ended up being affected by the strike, and it was a little bit more substantial. But now all of the electricity looks like ended up getting shut off over into Natanz. I'm not sure what impact that is going to have and what kind of backup redundant systems, whether or not like those centrifuges being shut off like that. Maybe we have some nuclear experts. I know one that I'm going to go to later and talk to. I didn't have the chance to go into it, but what happens when the power ends up getting actually shut off to those, if there's fail-safe systems that are no longer going to be good. Now, Israel did publish new videos of them going over and striking aerial defense assets and ICBMs as Iran was preparing to launch them. I'm going to put that up on the screen in just a second. John M. says, hey, Matt, do you think Khamenei will try to flee to Russia? Thanks for keeping us up to speed. Do I think Khamenei is going to try fleeing to Russia? Absolutely not. I don't, because once he leaves and he goes to Russia, it's kind of going to be like what ended up happening. Like, he's no longer in theater. He's gone. He's outside. If he tries to project his power and influence and stuff like that from outside the country, there's a lot of people that are going to end up walking away. If you want my personal assessment on that, I think there's going to be a lot of people that end up walking away if he does that. Now, what I could see Khamenei doing, what I absolutely could see Khamenei doing is trying to flee across the border into Afghanistan, all right, where he's going to be outside of some specific targeting, all right, unless they end up finding him. But I could see him fleeing into Afghanistan, hiding in a cave, hiding in a location kind of like Osama bin Laden did for a while, where he continues to put information out, pretending as if he is still in Tehran. But people are going to catch on to that after not too long, and they're going to end up, like, again, starting to defect. Here's some videos of those Israeli targeted attacks that were coming in over there. Going against some of their launchers and things as they're setting them into place. Some of these people that were like gathering around, there was Israeli airstrikes of them actually going after troops, Israeli airstrikes of them obviously targeting these vehicles on highways, other videos showing them already set up about being ready to launch that they end up going over and hitting. So Israel's still knocking this out. And if you want to know, and this was something that I ended up wanting to discuss, and then I got, how do I want to say, side railed in conversation by some of the things that were going on. I think this video right here, as far as Iranian tactics go, does a very good job of showing why they fire them in the waves in which they do, because you can see the Israeli systems trying to go up and knock them down. Obviously, they're a bit overwhelmed. You see a lot, all right, being deployed, going up into the sky. And they should all be having their own independent targets and going after it. But when you have that many that are being fired in that close proximity, some are just going to get through. You know, I just call it the Iron Dome for the sake of this one, because that's what most people know it by, even though we know there's lots of other assets that go into it. So please don't beat me up on that. All right. But the Iron Dome, for lack of better terms, is not perfect, right? It's not. And there's things that are going to get through, and people rely too heavy, all right, on technology. This is why I warned you guys on Friday, even though it appeared like Israel did a very good job knocking out a lot of capabilities from Iran, people were sitting back saying, hey, this isn't a big deal. And I warned you guys that you need to pay attention, because these systems aren't perfect, and Iran will eventually maneuver their equipment into position where they can launch it and fire it over into Israel, and you're going to get impacts. All right, that's what you're going to get. And that's exactly what's been happening. And truthfully, all of those people that ended up like coming out and stating all this ridiculous stuff about how Israel is basically going to be impenetrable and they're slamming Iran like it's nobody's business, I don't think you guys really quite understand how war actually works. Allegedly, this video, I couldn't tell you whether or not it's valid or not, but I'm just going to put it up for poop and giggles. But allegedly, this video that I'm about to show you is of Iranians eating popcorn and watching airstrikes.
ایران داره به هوادار اسرائیل میزنه. بچه‌ها بشینید پفیدا بکنید. آقا بچرخون اگه بریز زن ما آقا پفیدا بکنید.
Oh my goodness. I don't know what truth I ended up telling about Israel that ends up getting people lost. If you are new to this channel, or if you're just in, maybe you ought to subscribe to it, because I do my best to give out accurate information, whether or not it makes one side or the other look bad. I don't really care. I care about the truth, because the truth is actually what's going to tell you what's to actually come. And so it is possible that Trump ends up responding to the embassy and the consulates being targeted by Iran, allegedly. All right, we haven't seen any like firm proof 100% that that is what Iran's intended target was for, but it's close enough, I think, to piss off Trump and to get him to go over there and attack. Now, also, it could be, all right, that we were just standing by and waiting for all this to go down. That would be another conspiracy theory, that we're just waiting for Iran, because of the volume of ballistic missiles that they're launching, to come anywhere near remotely close. Or maybe we're going to shoot things down over the consulate inside of Erbil and try to claim, all right, that was Iran attacking us. But if that was the case, we would already have all of those assets like pre-located over in the region, and we'd be bombing the crap out of them right now as we speak. As we're on this conversation of Iranians like stepping up and what's taking place and them sitting back and watching everything get schwacked, I'm going to present to you this. All right, this is allegedly a photograph that ends up coming out of Iran that says, Israel, please target all Khamenei. All right, so they're asking him to go after him, and then also to go after the state broadcaster. And I don't know why they're throwing it out there. State broadcaster ends up needing to get nuked, other than the fact that they end up putting a lot of freaking propaganda out, such as 3 F-35s, and they're capturing Israeli drone trucks and all of the other stuff, which they provide no evidence for, because that's really what it's all about, right? At the end of the day, if that's what they've actually done, then we need to see that evidence. And that would likely end up getting put out. Those F-35s being shot down, there would be civilians taking pictures. We're getting videos from civilians, like constant uploads all the time. Some of those videos I first showed you over inside of Iran are like 30 minutes old. They were literally being put out right as I was getting scheduled to do this. So why hasn't a single Iranian taken pictures of F-35s that have been shot down? Why hasn't that surfaced to this point? Because it more than likely should have, but instead all we get is this AI-generated image that makes an F-35 appear to be 100 meters long. That's garbage. That's not an actual All right, image. It's AI generated. It's not real. And so a lot of people are being persuaded by all of this false crap online when truthfully it's not out there. Now, if we're going to talk, no way. No way. Did that end up getting taken down? I won't believe it. So again, Khamenei being dead is like a question right now that people are going after. And I said, if Khamenei falls silent or if he happens to be dead, then a lot of people are going to end up, I think, in my opinion, that's when you're going to see people rising up. Let me grab this. Because it was his close advisor. Here we go. Iranian state media allegedly, all right, said that Khamenei's senior advisor ended up surviving an assassination attempt, and this photograph ends up getting released. Now, the crazy part about this, as I put this out there and I start talking about this, all right, if this is Khamenei's advisor that ended up getting wounded in an assassination attempt by Israel of Khamenei, why hasn't and this is what's kind of causing everybody that, again, this stuff came out at like 12 hours ago that this ended up happening. So why hasn't the Iranian government provided some proof of life that the Ayatollah is still alive? Where's their supreme leader? And I think those are the questions that everybody's asking. If we don't get some sort of a response from Iran about the supreme leader actually being alive at this point, by like, I'd say by the end of the day over here in the United States of America, I'd say your odds of him actually have been schwacked by Israel start to really go up. Now, it is possible that Israel had no idea that Khamenei was hiding in one of these locations, that they were going after senior officials from the IRGC, you know, several other things. And it's just random happenstance that Khamenei and his advisors happen to be there. But this photograph right here of his senior advisor, all right, being wounded inside of a hospital bed, and you can see his face is a little bit jacked up and everything else. If he was there at that location, there's a good possibility that Khamenei could have been there as well. And I think personally, this is where it's coming from. Now, people allegedly with like ties to Israeli intelligence have told me that there is a good probability that Khamenei's dead. This is what I've seen. This is what I've heard. This is what I've been told. This is also different things that I've read. So if that's the case and Khamenei's dead, or if there's massive rumors that Khamenei's being dead, then I would expect to see them come out with some sort of information or some sort of validation that he's still alive, wounded, whatever, because his senior advisor is definitely wounded. All right. And that is coming from the Iranian state media that ended up happening. So if that's the case, where the heck is Khamenei? All right. Let's see here. The other one I want to show you guys is this. Give me one sec as I grab it to go put it up on the screen for you guys. It's the drone that ended up getting shot over the top of Erbil. All right. And for some reason, I thought it was in my stack. I just ended up clicking all the way through it, and it's not. So I'm looking for it really quick so I can show you guys this. But essentially, the sucker is on fire and it's falling down. So it was a very high altitude intercept. Now, if those drones were on their way, I'm looking for it. That could have been one of the ones that ended up getting taken down. But if that's the case and that ended up happening, again, this is the one video I found that may or may not actually bring it up. All right. That's weird. Obviously, there was reports of everything that were going off over it. All the sirens, but I'm looking for a very particular one that ends up showing the impact. That's not the whole video. That's not fair. There it is right here. All right, this is the video allegedly, and I'll let it play for a couple times so you guys can see it, and you can see that it ended up getting struck at some point in time. You can see different like chunks of fire and all that crap falling off of it. And this is reported to be right outside of the U.S. consulate over inside of Erbil. So this would be your information that goes back along with the U.S. consulate over inside of not Tehran, gosh dang it, Tel Aviv. All right, so U.S. consulate in Tel Aviv, plus this drone being shot down reportedly over the top of Erbil. Now, there's other possibilities of what could have actually been taking place over here. All right, what you're seeing inside of these videos. There could have been an intercept of something else, all right, that ended up happening. But what's being reported is that we have sirens and stuff like that have been going off, like air raid sirens around the consulate in Erbil over the last 24 hours. And now this video has surfaced overnight that reportedly shows a drone that ends up getting shot down and going down. Somebody says photon torpedo, all that other crap. No, if you actually blow it up, you can see some of the like destruction and stuff like that of that sucker, like flaming off, going over the side. Jigglenut says, do you think the earthquake in Iran could have been a nuclear test? So I looked at these earthquakes over inside of Iran a very, very long time ago, like several months ago. It was actually right around the same time that the Iranian port ended up catching fire, and then you had that huge detonation followed by everything else. And we were looking at some of them. What I ended up discovering via all the geological information on that area is that you do, in fact, have a lot of earthquakes. Like, the area is very prone to earthquakes. And so what we look for is we look for different spikes in the seismic activity, right? So when you're looking at like the reading that ends up coming out, you'll want to see a huge spike that ends up coming up and like an immediate drop off. All right. That would be your sign that that ends up taking place. There was one test that we ended, or I'm sorry, there was one earthquake that I ended up spotting back then, and I'll have to grab it and pull it up. That was down there. And if I can grab it off my profile, that would be great. But there was one location that was in a salt mine. All right. Now, these salt mines end up getting used for these nuclear tests for a reason. And you'll see salt caps and things like that on the map. I can actually pull up Google Maps and just take you straight to it. Now that I think about it, I know where it's located, so I can show you where this earthquake was at. And I believe it registered just over like a 4.0 on the Richter scale. Anyways, it did have that signature, and it was tested in a salt mine. So why are they using salt mines? Like, why are salt mines important? The U.S. government's been using salt mines for a long time for underground nuclear tests. I think we were the first ones to actually use them. We've done it back in the 60s and 70s, I think is like some of the latest reports. But what ends up happening is these earthquakes. So if you go and you look up that earthquake, I haven't had time to do it this morning. I had a like very early interview, 7 a.m. Eastern time interview, not in Eastern time zone right now. So I had a very early interview, but didn't have the time to go look this up. But if you notice that there's a salt cap over by it, all right, and that is the seismograph reading to where you have that immediate spike that ends up going down, that's where you can start looking and say, yeah, that might be a freaking nuclear detonation as it goes over, right? The other thing to remember about some of those readers over in those areas that are actually reading everything and reading that ground signature that comes out, they're controlled by Iran and they are controlled by Russia. So those are the two places that end up controlling those seismographs over in that region, if that's something that you're interested in going and researching. So know that. However, that detonation underground is going to get read in other countries. So also look at other countries' reports and what some of the other members of the community are saying to try to bring all of that together, because it is a very steep slope to stand there and say that Iran has been testing nuclear weapons underground. And I know this because there was an earthquake when the area is prone to earthquakes. Got to take all those different things into account. Now, the reason they use those salt mines is because they end up absorbing a lot of that blast. And the idea is that it will like basically dampen the detonation, and or because it's all salt and ends up giving away, not register. So that's the whole reason behind all that crap. So if you're going to look at that. Now, people are saying that our B2s might be moving in the area. Obviously, we have plenty down in Diego Garcia and several other locations. This is some more videos that ended up coming out of Tehran about some of the recent airstrikes that were taking place. Somebody asked me, somebody just asked, what do I think is going to happen to Khamenei? I think that he's going to be done because, oh, dude, man, I almost forgot to show you guys this as well. Oh, my goodness. I told you guys, well, I didn't tell you guys this, but I'll tell you why I actually think this video is accurate. So this video that I'm putting up on the screen right now, there we go. Can't do the music. This video I'm putting up on the screen right now reportedly shows Kurds getting ready to cross the border and go into Iran. Now, for those of you guys that don't know, the Kurds are kind of like this disenfranchised group over inside of Iraq. They've been struggling to get their own region forever. U.S. forces have worked with them before in the past, but we always end up writing them off and abandoning them. The last time when ISIS ended up rolling into Iraq many years ago, it was like 2015, 2016. Some of the Kurds were the ones that actually were being targeted by ISIS because of their actual religious beliefs. And they're also the ones that ended up rising up and going over and causing a huge pain in the butt for ISIS. And they were taking the fight to them like it was nobody's business. And now it looks like the Kurds are going in there. Why do I say that this is something important to keep an eye on? Because I have heard before this information came out that this was a possibility. So if that's the case, then that looks like we might have some Kurds going into northern Iran. You might actually have like a proxy ground war going on. And now it's rumored that these forces are going to be led by either Mossad agents or USSF, which I don't know if I believe that. I don't see, all right, special forces troops or Green Berets going in with the Kurds over into Iran. But it does lead to question, if they're going into northern Iran, why would they be going over there? Now, I've said numerous times that just because you end up dropping bombs on these facilities doesn't guarantee that they're going to be taken out. You sometimes need to get on the ground and confirm that that's happening. But there's another reason behind this. I want you to think about all of the information that I just told you about what some of these Iranians are doing. You have women removing their frickin' veils. You've got frickin' people sitting around cheering on, like, you know, Israeli airstrikes over inside of Iran. You've got people that have reportedly appear to be dropping information and saying, hey, you need to target this and please kill Khamenei for the rest of us, right? So you've got all this crap that's going on over inside of Iran. If a ground war takes place and Khamenei is dead, there is a good probability that the people will start rising up. I'll say that again. If there's a ground war taking place and Khamenei is in fact dead, there's a good probability that people will start rising up. And you might actually start seeing I don't know, an actual regime change over inside of Iran. Now, a lot of people are stating that Israel's entire goal is just to knock out these different nuke sites and these different uranium enrichment plants, right? That might not necessarily be true, because the belief in Netanyahu's not an idiot. He's not going to get an opportunity like this again. Let's be honest. This is a good reason for Israel to finally target Iran. If we're going to sit back and we're going to be honest about this situation, it's a good reason for Israel to finally target Iran. Great, right? Go get them. Have fun with it. But Israel likely isn't going to get this chance again for multiple decades following. After this, it's just not going to happen. They're going to lose popular favor. They're going to be like, you guys already struck them, so on and so forth. Netanyahu knows, all right, Israeli intelligence knows that the real threat is the actual ideology that's over behind it, that the regime is the real problem. And just because you wipe out these facilities, just because you wipe out some of these scientists, doesn't mean that Iran's not going to be able to regroup and rebuild, reorganize, and relaunch attacks on Israel. So in order for them to actually stop the nuclear threat of Iran, what they're going to have to do is to remove the Iranian regime. That means the Ayatollah has crosshairs on his head, and that means that the people inside of Iran need to rise up and take over. That's my personal belief. That's not grounded in any evidence or anything that goes out. That's just known from studying the region, studying people's beliefs, like actually studying the key players that are involved and how they're going to feel about it. I mean, that's it. And there's a lot of signs that are certainly pointing towards that. And it's going to look a hell of a lot differently than what we're currently seeing over inside Gaza. It's just the way it's going to go. So long story short, we're going to keep it open. I just heard that new alerts ended up getting put out for over inside of Israel, and that we are worried about new ballistic missiles that are coming in to Israel. Let's see here. I've got a lot of people sending me some stuff. A lot of people sending me some stuff right now. Let me check and see what we got here. Yep, that one. I want to verify some of this crap that I'm seeing. Yes, we've got drones down in the area. Great. What's this one here? No. That's interesting. If that's brand new, we'll have to go check that out. Typhoon fighter jet reportedly flying around the Persian Gulf right now with their radar flipped on. That's pretty damn interesting if that's actually ends up being real, and we can go check on that here in a little bit. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do that right now as we speak, if those freaking typhoons are over there. I don't know how old that is that actually got sent. I chose not to check that message very much. I'm not seeing any typhoons over top of that same region where that just came out. Now, that doesn't mean that they didn't flick the radar on and off. We go over and we check out flight radar, before all of these aircraft were being diverted over, and they were flying over eastern Iran. Not a big problem. And now we notice that there's zero aircraft flying over Iran right now, and that they are all going all the way around. They'd rather fly over Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, and Pakistan than Iran at this time. You also notice Iraqi airspace, Syrian airspace is all dead. Lebanese airspace also appears to be dead in this. So is Israeli airspace, right? You've got a lot of crap that's raining down over there. So what's going to happen? What do I expect to see today? I expect to see more retaliatory attacks from Iran going towards Israel, again, targeting those major urban areas, going after them. I also expect an increase, in retaliation from Israel over inside of Iran. These strikes that we're seeing right now, kind of like low-vis, run-of-the-mill freaking strikes that are taking place. I would expect to see some more targeted assassinations or assassination attempts by Israel on some of these high-ranking figures inside of the Iranian government. A lot of these new people that the Ayatollah ended up appointing to replace all the other people that ended up getting killed are likely going to start getting targeted. All right. And it is possible that if they have eyes on the Ayatollah or they have intelligence that says where the Ayatollah is at, that they might be trying to kill him right now as we speak. It could happen. And it's very possible. Like I said, if we've got his senior advisor that looks like he has been wounded, all right, in a reported assassination attempt, then it is very possible to come out. Yeah, that's a new one. So this is that same area that I ended up showing you guys earlier. This is right outside Tehran, and they're going after the surface-to-air missiles and all that crap allegedly outside there. Yeah, anybody saying that Israeli warplanes are down, that hasn't occurred yet. We haven't seen any actual evidence of that other than statements coming out of Iran and statements coming out of, you know, the anti-Israel movement stating that that actually happened. Israel has been drastically impacted by these ballistic missiles, though. There's upwards of 500 or so ballistic missiles, it sounds like, estimates so far that have been shot by Iran at Israel. Estimates, by the way. Those are estimates. Brandon, becoming a true supporter. Good to have you with us, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, I've had a very long morning already, and I've had a very long weekend. I'm going to do myself a favor because I have another interview that I got to do here in just a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and close this one out a little bit early. That way, if something does unfold and something does come down, I'm going to be able to jump back in here right away. But I've also got to look out for myself because I'm running on, no kidding, about 2 hours of sleep right now. So I got to be able to get a little bit more, like rested and give my head a little bit of a break. But I'm going to keep you guys posted on everything that goes out. If you see a video, make sure, or I'll tell you what, just make sure you're subscribed, make sure your notifications are turned on, and if you can, just like good old Brandon at NFTV over there did, support this channel, become a true supporter. Helps out a lot. Love you guys to death. I'll see you here in just a little bit. Peace, love.